Great, thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm really pleased to speak in this evening's debate, and I thank Ivan McKee for securing the debate. Presiding Officer, before I begin, like Ivan McKee, I am a member of the Health Committee, and I remind Chamber I'm a registered nurse, and I fully support the health recommendations to drink no more than 14 units of alcohol each week. Mr McKee has laid out very well his points and has affirmed that the Scotch whisky industry is vital for Scotland and our future economy. It has been 200 years since the 1823 Excise Act sanctioned the distilling of whisky, so now it's a good time to reflect on how the industry plans to take Scotch whisky forward for the next 200 years. And for my contribution, Presiding Officer, I'd like to highlight on what I think is a key resource for the next 200 years, and that is women in the whisky industry and the marketplace. Presiding Officer, Yale University has found that women actually have more taste buds on their tongues than men. And in fact, current studies suggest that women are far superior to men when it comes to tasting and smelling. So I therefore suggest that the industry needs to make sicker that they appeal and to advertise to us lassies that have discovered the amazing variation of smells and flavours that Scotch whisky offers. I'm a relatively new convener to the cross-party group in whisky, and I have to thank Gordon MacDonald MSP for asking me to join. It wasn't a hard decision to make, Presiding Officer. The passion for the history, the stories, the experiences of Scotland's national drink have been with me since I lived in California after moving there in 1990. And in the 90s, whisky as a product and whisky as an industry were both very male-dominated and focused. There were only a handful of women who were working in the Scotch whisky industry, and almost all of the adverts and marketing was directed to an older male consumer. And often, at times, these adverts were downright blatantly misogynistic, which seemed to send the message to women that Scotch whisky isn't for you. So I'm thankful that the industry has almost completely stopped this practice, and overtly sexist marketing is rare now. But the sheer lack of representation of women in marketing and editorial imagery still feeds the insidious idea that Scotch whisky is not meant for women. This is something that I appeal to the industry to change. In 2020, a non-profit organisation called Our Whisky Foundation conducted a survey of how the world's largest whisky brands represented drinkers on social media, and they found that 220% more images of men than women. So in an effort to tackle this, Our Whisky Foundation launched a new website called Modern Face of Whisky. It's a free-to-use image library that depicts people of all genders, ages and races, and it has the intention that the whisky industry will start using more diversity in their adverts and then appeal to a wider consumer base, including women and people under the age of 35. Statistics show that Scotch whisky drinkers discover that they like it before the age of 31. So, Presiding Officer, I'm very proud to say that today there are so many women working prominently in the whisky industry, and there are far too many to mention, which is really good news. So I would, however, like to mention a couple of trailblazing women in whisky. Suzanne Cameron Nielsen is our Head of Engagement for the Scotch Whisky Association in the cross-party group, and she helps us keep us right with secretariat duties. Margaret Nichol is the hidden nose behind Dalmore's success. Dr. Rachel Barry, Master Blender for Brown-Forman Group of Distilleries, and Cara Lang is the Managing Director of Douglas Lang and Company. So there's so many to mention, and we've got Caitlin Herd, who's the team lead at the Borders Distillery in Hoyk in my South Scotland region. So the Minister, I'm sure, will be happy that I am not going to give him any duties this evening, except maybe to just acknowledge there are distilleries in the South Scotland region, gin, rum and whisky, and the most southern distillery in Scotland is Blagnach. So, Presiding Officer, I will just end quickly with what Annabel Thomas, who's the founder of the Knockneen Distillery, what she said last year. She said, "My dream is that we get to a place where no one finds it surprising if women drink whisky, or indeed if women work in the whisky industry." I'll end it there, Presiding Officer. Slán Dubha.